Wow, thank you. It is wonderful to be, thank you. It's good to be home. And this is home, as you heard, and I always remember that when I first heard of Unity, when I first walked into a Unity church, it was this church, and it was Reverend Chad holding that door open. And be careful what you wish for. You might find yourself up here someday. I highly recommend the path. I come to you with dispatches from the home office, Unity Village in Missouri. One thing I noticed when I was there, and I often remember, and I want to share with you, is the large number of people who dedicate their lives to supporting the Unity movement, to Unity ministries, including this one. And I want you to know that you are well loved by forces known and unknown, by people known and unknown, who work very hard to keep us all going. So I bring that from the home office. I want to speak today about the space in between. We are in a space in between now, between Christmas and New Year. And as I considered this, I realized there are many spaces in between, small and large. For example, there might be the space in between our working day and our evening at home. All the way up to, of course, the space between our time on this earth and our time in infinite consciousness when we move on. And everything in between. I'm in a space between myself now as I approach the end of the 3-year ministerial program out at the village. It's been and continues to be quite a ride. It would be hard to describe, so just take my word for it. It's a wonderful thing to do if you feel called that way. I encourage it. And the space between being a student and focused on that, and you know how it is, you get short-timer syndrome or senioritis, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you try and stay in the moment, but oftentimes my mind will drift to that light at the end of the tunnel, thinking that will be nice when that day comes, and it will in June. And my family and I will be returning to this area. I wanted to share that with you. That's something we got guidance for. Thank you. We tried to sell our house and it wouldn't go. So we're moving back to it. I just concluded that we love it more than anyone else and they can't have it unless they love it as much as we do. And I guess they don't. So this space in between, I ask, what do we do when we find ourselves in a space in between? Is there even anything to do? Sometimes it's a matter of doing. Sometimes it's just a matter of being. And how do we know the difference? It can be uncomfortable, and we can also have a sense of anticipation. We might have fear in us, or as I like to try and remember to do when I feel that way, say, I'm not afraid, I'm curious. I'm not afraid of what might happen, I'm curious to find out what might happen. That helps me stay in a better space. But I think we can acknowledge that fear can come up in that space in between for us, whether it's small or large. What I want to talk about today is first recognizing that space when we are there. That's not always a given. Sometimes I feel like I realize a little late, oh, right, I'm in between something. That's why I feel like I'm not quite sure what's happening, what's going on. To remember to rest in that space, to breathe, and to trust Spirit as we move forward and expect the best. I found that to be helpful when I realize I'm in a space in between. I rest, I breathe, I trust, and I move ahead in confidence. I'm remembering a significant space in between. For me, it wasn't my space, it was the space for my father. Some years ago, my father had been ill a little bit on and off, and doctors weren't quite sure what was going on, but there was, ongoing tests and treatments. And he was in the hospital in, would have been October. And I found myself, I'm not sure how this happened, found myself alone with him in the room, having just understood myself from the physicians that he was probably not going home. There was a test they were talking about running, but honestly, he would not have been able to weather that test. And I was with him, just he and I, and helped him to understand that space in between that he was in. And my father was always one who loved a plan, loved to know where he was and where he was going, very excited about the next thing. And I was able to be with him while he shifted from thinking about that medical test and thinking about going home to realizing he wasn't. And he immediately began to think about his move to Four Seasons Hospice House in town here. If you don't know it, it's a wonderful and amazing place. And that's exactly what happened for him. That was his space in between his time on this earth and between his next stage in infinite consciousness. And we went over there, and within 12 hours of that conversation, he had moved on. Never one to waste time on anything. I recognize that now as a space in between. And I'm grateful to realize that even then, perhaps without realizing, without asking the question, what do I do in a space in between, that I was somehow able to rest and breathe, somehow to trust and know that all was well in spirit and to be okay through that. And I know that he was able to do that as well. I could see that in him and for him. Sometimes with these things, I like to look to Scripture for guidance, and I have something I want to share with you. This, for those of us who knew Chad well, this is one of his favorites, greatest hits. If it's from the Sermon on the Mount, you know he loved it. And this is from Matthew 11. It reads, "Come to me, all you that are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." I love that passage because it helps me to remember that that is how my life can be. It can be easy and light. That doesn't mean that when it doesn't feel that way that anything's wrong. Nothing is wrong. That's fine too. But it becomes a place to know that I can return to, no matter what's going on, no matter what space I'm in between. I rest and breathe and trust and move forward in confidence, knowing that that is an experience I can choose at any moment, as difficult as that might be. And if I take these verses to heart, I ask myself, well, that's a nice idea, and those are wonderful words, but what exactly do I do? I'm a person, I appreciate an idea, I love the world of thought, but I also like concrete steps to help connect to where I am right here and now. I need that. And so when I ask that of myself, I think about an image of the arrow on the bow. Right? If you can picture an arrow on a bow, the arrow's purpose in life is to fly, but when it's sitting on the bow, it's not flying at all. It might feel like it's doing nothing. It might feel like something is wrong, or it might feel like it needs to be doing something different. But we know that none of those things are true. It's in exactly the right place. There's nothing that it needs to be doing, and all is well. It might feel like it's moving backwards. It's literally moving backwards. Thinking, no, I'm supposed to go that way really fast, and I'm going this way really slow. This can't be right. But we know that that's not true. And in a moment, that arrow will know as it flies, yes, this is exactly what I am all about. And that space in between on the bow, that was a part of it. It was not a problem. It was nothing to be avoided. It's part of the process. When I find myself in that place, when I find myself as the arrow on the bow, I do try to remember to rest. And resting for me, part of it means knowing that I am okay. That truly I am okay. And I can rest in that simple idea, in that simple understanding. When I'm resting, it always helps me to breathe. They go together for me. If I'm resting, I want to follow my breath. That helps to bring me into the moment, the right here and right now, which is, of course, the only moment that is. You know, we have minds that are great. We're story-driven creatures. Our minds at their core are pattern-matching devices, and we are story-driven creatures. And sometimes those patterns that we match and those stories that we create are in support of us, and sometimes not quite so much. And it's important to remember that we are the author. We, along with Spirit, are creating that story, and we can choose to create it differently. So when I breathe, I focus on the here and now, knowing that all is well. And I've noticed that when I'm in the now moment, everything is always okay. I have never had a problem in this very current moment. I've had lots of other issues that were outside of the current moment. But when I return to the present moment, all truly is well. I rest and breathe and return to the moment and trust in Spirit. I center in prayer. That can be the simplest thing in the world. I almost wish we had another word for it, because when we talk about meditation, I know when I used to hear it, you think you have to go on a mountain and train for years and empty your mind and all this other stuff that we hear about. And I find, that it's actually far simpler than that. It's deceptively simple. It's so simple that you can do it and think, I'm not doing this right. And then you instantly stop doing it, and then you're right. You're not doing it. You were, but now you're not. So we trust, we center in prayer, and we listen for that still small voice that is within us, our internal guidance. It was mentioned I'm a certified firewalking instructor, and a core teaching related to firewalking is finding and trusting your inner guidance. I found that anytime I have walked barefoot on hot coals, having checked my guidance and received a yes, you can do this and not be burned if you want, that has been the outcome. I've not always received a yes. There have been times where I have not walked. That was at least as powerful as walking. But this concept of our inner guidance, we're born with it. Everyone has it. It's not optional. As we've heard, it's written on our hearts from the beginning. We can trust that Spirit, and we do that when we find ourselves in a space in between. We trust that inner voice and know if there is something that I need to do, there may or may not be. If there is something I need to do, I will know it in that moment. I don't have to anticipate it. I don't have to think it up. I don't have to worry about it. I will know when it's time to act. That's been one of the hardest things for me to do, is to let go of the planning and the thinking I know what has to happen next. And to truly allow myself to be guided by the Spirit within, and know that I do know when it's time to act, and I will be okay. And it's quite a relief. We'll do that together in a minute. So we rest and know that we're okay. We breathe and focus on the now moment. We trust and center in prayer, listening for guidance from Spirit. and we expect the best moving forward. That can be challenging. I know I've found myself in places where I didn't feel like things were going to be good. And what I have found and what I'll recommend to you when I say expect the best is if you're not feeling like you're expecting the best, that's okay. Pretend that you are. And that is enough. It really is. Pretend that you're expecting that everything is going to turn out for the best. And you'll be amazed how much of a shift in that direction your experience will take. So thinking about all these things, resting, breathing, trusting, and knowing that all is well, expecting the best. What would our world be like if we all did that? Each time we found ourselves challenged in a space in between. What I think we could do now, it's a little overwhelming to think about the universe and the world, but look around at this room full of spiritual seekers. We're not here on accident. What if those of us in this room could choose to rest and breathe and trust and know that we know when to act? What would the world be like? Think about that for a moment. I know that the power and the love in this room could transform the world. We don't need anyone else. This group can do it. We have more than enough power and energy to transform this world. So I ask today, let's commit together as a group to doing that as we move forward into our week. And let's see what that could feel like. Let's practice now as we move into a time of meditation. Take these principles to heart, put them into action or lack of action in ourselves. I invite you now to close your eyes as you're willing and able. Feel yourself supported by your chair. Knowing that there is nowhere else you need to be, nothing else you need to do. You are in the right place at the right time, right here and right now. As we breathe deeply again together, we relax further into the comfort of this present moment. And we choose this time to rest. We rest and we simply breathe and be aware of our breathing. That is all. And from this place of rest, we remember who we really are. Spiritual beings having a human experience. We have a built-in connection to all that is. And we choose now to recognize that connection and bring it into our awareness. We rest and breathe and trust in spirit. Let us now rest and breathe and trust in spirit in the silence, taking our meditation deeper into the silence. and taking a breath together again. Let us smile in gratitude for this opportunity to touch the Spirit. To know that truly all is well in this and every present moment. To know that we are divinely guided toward our highest good in all moments. And that we can rely on this inner guidance 100%. It is who we are. It is always within us. So as we rest and breathe and trust in Spirit, we open our eyes and return to this space in gratitude for this knowing, in gratitude for this community of seekers, for the power that each of us brings into this world and the power that this group brings into this world is unimaginable. I invite you to open your heart and mind and realize that in this moment. Knowing that this group can change the world with simple practices just as we've done. So coming back in, if you need to take a stretch, as I was taught, wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers. You'll notice, though, even I was, in a sense, a student of Chad, I didn't swear one time. Isn't that good? You know, we are taught the minister swear words like piffle and bull hockey, but many of us know Chad used the actual swear words. And that is unusual outside this room, I'll let you know. And we're not the only ones that know that about him, trust me. But God bless you all. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to be here. Thank you. Musician dance. Yes.
So I want to let us all take the opportunity to give our blessing, our unity blessing to Dan, as well as, this was a part I missed before, the part earlier when we were welcoming the people here for the first time. We want to extend this blessing to you as well. So we rub our hands together and we open our hearts and we say, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divinity in you. Thank you.
Thank you.